Welcome to Inside Integration. My name is Chris. I'm joined as always by my friend Jayson.
What's up, everybody?
And today we are going to talk a little bit about the state of, I'm trying to word this the right way, but the state of journalism in custom integration.
Watch never stops. This is WINS. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
And I don't know, journalism probably isn't the right word to use, but just kind of notice, we go through a lot of news sites, that are focused on CI, right? Residential systems and CE Pro and a couple of the other ones that are out there. And we look at these things trying to get ideas for what to talk about in the show and kind of take the pulse. And what I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed it too, is that everything is a press release, right? It all seems like, and even when you find something that feels like, okay, this is some kind of, journalism, or maybe there's an editorial component to this, it's always positive. And then if you dig deep enough, there's a plug for somebody in there. And it just immediately feels like, all right, well, this was an attempt, and
it's all bought and paid for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to. I mean, we're not here to crap on anybody,
No,
right?
definitely not.
This is how you make a living. This is how it works. And industry trade. I'm not going to say the R word. Trade publications. I'm guilty of charged of calling them rags, but they're not. All these publications obviously are designed to give vendors a platform, give people a platform, but we'll say journalistic integrity isn't really the the first thing on the top 10 of the priorities list there, right? I see your point. It is a weird space to operate in, because you and I are both guilty of shamelessly promoting
100%.
and creating content. When we talked about this subject before, I'm like, oh, you mean us?
Yeah, that's my whole day job, for
Right.
sure.
But we're not attempting to be journalists, right? We're pointing at products. We're talking about solutions. We're talking about concepts and ideas. It's not like, the context of this particular product, or there's mass exodus from brand Y because of
Right.
those objective comments and commentary seem to be reserved for direct face-to-face conversations that have plausible deniability, are not like in text format where somebody can screen grab them.
These are the conversations that immediately come after an email that may be slightly harshly worded. As soon as you send it and count to 5, your phone is ringing, and it's let's have this conversation offline.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Are you sure you really want to have that in print? I was taught long ago by masters on the corporate side of things that not everything that you are thinking should you put into an email. You should never reply all to anything ever. Watch what you say. Watch what you put in print, because the context of what you're saying could be lost, but the words that you said, free of context, are still there in print for everybody to examine and make their own determination on.
Yeah, and there's and that's fine. And that's the thing, is that these places, they all have people who are dedicated to this, good people. End of statement, right?
No question, bar none. We got some top-notch journalists,
sir,
and contributors and editors that write and make content in our industry. Yeah, this is not an assassination by any stretch of the imagination.
No, certainly not. It's just, I guess for me, I think that feels like it's something that's missing, from this industry, right? And it would be good to have, and again, it doesn't exist because there's no way to pay for it, right? So if you end up, if that's your, if you're if your whole stated goal is to do investigative journalism in CI, or even just get a little bit deeper, and
the lamest beat ever.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. There's some great stories in this industry that
I
I've
know.
never seen the light of day.
I'm joking. Yeah, no, there's definitely some, there's some whispers and some dark corners kicking around.
Certainly.
Shall not be named.
But obviously, like if that's your thing, if there's even a chance that something that you write or publish, no matter how well researched or anything else, if there's a chance that it's even a little bit negative or a little bit real, let's be real here, right? If it strays from the bullet points or whatever, chances are you're probably not going to get sponsored. That, lines are obviously the line that you're talking about is probably not going to buy an ad next month, right? And lines that are comparable probably are going to go the same way because they don't want to be the ones who are exposed. So there isn't really a whole lot of independence in this thing, at least that I can see, except for us, obviously, because that's what we're.
Yeah, we're not sponsored or affiliated with anyone other than each other, and we kind of feign. I guess we're connected in public. We do a thing.
I know that guy. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Whatever, it's fine. What? Tell me what he said.
It's trying to get podcast. It's trying to get podcast guests on and saying, yeah, I do a podcast, and then having to wait that extra beat while they think about it, and then say with Jayson Savage, and then they immediately agree to want to come on. So,
man, I wish that worked. I wish that opened more doors because I'd use it myself. Do you know who I am? No, I probably wouldn't actually do that because then I wouldn't have a name where people want to do a podcast with.
Well, that's when I roll into the booth at a trade show and I'm the asshole with the camera and you're standing next to me and we roll into the booth and everybody pretends to ignore me and I just start yelling, "Do you know who he is?"
No,
that's
never
where
happened.
That's how this all works. So
yeah, sure. Far be it from that to be the truth, but you were talking about journalistic, independence, and there are some outliers, right? Like let's just call them out, right? Like Ted Green at Strategy. Like I'll tell you, man, like the bane of so many vendors' existence from a certain point of view. I know from my own personal experience with Strategy and some of the stories that he wrote about Sony during my time there, and they're getting out of the audio business, and if you look at their balance sheets and where they're headed, this is bad for the electronics business.
sure.
That may very well be, but it was also kind of tangentially associated or looped in with like Sony's going down the tubes in a not direct way or an overt statement, but sort of like what's happening here? Like a question mark
When
on
it's
it, right?
one post after another, and this is easy to see, and not to single out Ted because I do.
No, we're not. That's just an example.
As much as from 1996 GeoCities as his website looks like, and that's not a cut. That's you stay with what works, and that's good. You can see it today, right, with the whole Massimo thing and how
he's hitting on it, right? He's talking about it.
There's a post and a post and a post and a guy. That is dogged journalism that's running down that story. It just seems like it's really few and far between, right? Like that kind of thing. Like you'd never see anything like that about Crestron, or you'd never see anything like that about Savant. As much as it may or may not be deserved, right? Like there's stories here, right?
Absolutely.
It would be great to get to the bottom of like, wow, okay, how come all these commercial jobs were getting parts during the pandemic and the residential guys weren't, right? Like there's an avenue for that. And it's not, and I'm not singling out a single manufacturer, but this is a thing that happened, right? So, that's the kind of thing like, man, it'd be great if there were, people keeping these manufacturers honest because, man, I don't know, manufacturers are great. Like there's great people in there. There's great things, but keeping integrators in the dark, that ain't so great.
Yeah. Intrinsically the mystery is beneficial to the vendors, right?
Of course.
If everybody knows all the things, it's not a competition anymore. It's a monopoly and antitrust. Yeah. I frown on that sort of stuff, I guess, for whatever reason.
I mean, I see it as, there's a lot more like if we partition custom integration and real life, right? Split those apart, right? You've got a bit more
Natural
transparency impenetrable. If you look at the differences between those, like the vast majority of companies on the CI side are privately held. They don't They're not responsible to investors
Shareholders.
or a board
Nope.
or shareholders or anybody else. So a lot of this stuff gets, kept in a box, locked behind a couple of people. Whereas, on the public side, like everybody knows about Sonos's troubles. Everybody knows when Apple is having some issue.
Right.
Everybody knows, and Control 4 is kind of in that market, Snap, and they kind of blur that line a little bit, but transparency is good, especially if you've got integrators who are building their businesses on your products, right? Like how many folks out there, of the 4 people that listen to us, how many folks out there in your business like leaned on a specific manufacturer and it's just delays, or this thing is going to be in the next software version and that day never comes, or
Right.
Manufacturer promises you a feature, you promise your client a feature, and now you look like the bad guy because that manufacturer decided to never release this feature, besides marketing on it for a very long time, right? So, that's kind of where I get to with a lot of this stuff that, a little bit more. I don't want to say investigation, right? Like, because there is no appetite for that. You're not gonna be able to make money doing a thing like that. You're not gonna be able to get sponsors if that's what you do, unless you get it with donations or whatever else. So, where is that? Where does that live? Because it's gotta.
You'd be a pariah. You'd be an industry pariah to every vendor out there because you're trying to get into all of these things.
Oh, here comes that guy. He said this.
Yeah, man, the catering at this event was terrible. Like whatever whatever a reviewer or whatever a writer wants to focus on, right? Like, and not to say that they would put that in print, but having been to a few launch events and hearing some odd critiques, it's certainly all part of the perception of what you're putting out there, right?
Sure.
But gosh, like it's just such a weird. You're to your point. You would be such like persona non grata. You would never be able to get any details. Nobody would ever want anything that they shared with you attributed to them. So, true journalistic deep dives are probably not a lane that you can go down. Formats. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off.
No, it's okay. It's fine. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, but the sub channels or the new media, if you will, of Reddit threads and Slack channels and internal or national smack talking chat threads is where the meat is. I think it's where those are the lanes that you want to be tapped into to actually get some of the skinny on what's going on out there.
Well, I mean, and the other thing too is a publication doing that is one thing, right? And getting that reputation now, or a certain author or reviewer, or journalist or whatever, now, okay, that person gets the side eye at every trade show, right? When that person wanders up to the booth, right? Like everybody disperses more than they do when I show up with a camera.
Yeah. We're out of passes. You can't get into this event.
Yeah,
sorry, Bob.
That's one thing. But if you've seen, if you probably know about this from your time at Sony. I definitely know about this from my time as a rep. If you have a dealer in your territory who's saying something out of school or, as real as that is or whatever, like that dealer gets the side eye as well. I don't want to say blackballed or anything like that, because it's not like that. It's more like, suddenly this person is kind of isolated.
They get shit talked about them in monthly meetings with reps, and they get worn out behind their back. Not that I would ever do that about any of our partners.
But so I'll give you a blind item, right? I'm not going to do any identifying remarks or whatever. And, if somebody's listening to this, maybe they'll realize that it's them I'm talking about. But I'm not going to expose anybody. But you have a dealer. They use a product. They build systems around a certain product, and they start having, and they're a competent dealer. They're great with pretty much every other line except for one. And they start having problems with a very integral part of the system that they have installed. And now they start reaching out to the manufacturer and reaching out to their local rep or their local person, their representative, their manufacturer's rep, people in the company, on and on and on, and they're just not getting anywhere. So they fire up a post on the Facebook custom integrators group or whatever that is, and now they there's other dealers who post below them who are like, I'm having the same problem. I can't believe you're going through this too. This yada, 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 whatever. And then that person gets like, I don't think it's a stretch to say like that person gets blackballed. Like now they're, they're going to lose their tier and status with this manufacturer who they've had, a great time with. And they've done everything right. They've gone through every proper channel. They're not out here bad-mouthing anybody. They're just, they're frustrated. Their client is frustrated. Maybe that client, integrators know how clients are. That client is probably threatening to sue that person out of existence, right?
Oh, we're gonna lose the shop.
Yeah, and
I know that's like a fake theme on automotive television. It's a reality in custom install.
It's 100%. The circle that we play in, we are doing deals with. We are installing systems for people who have teams of lawyers who can sue us many times over 3 generations hence, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it's kind of important, and that's an important thing to weigh when you're picking your manufacturing partners and that kind of thing. But, that's the thing. If there was any place that, this person could go to investigate this, an independent or whistleblower or whatever, even just a trade publication or something where that would get some exposure, that would probably force the manufacturer to take some action and satisfy the situation instead of the route that it took, which was it got really out of hand really fast. And, that's what I mean. Like this is missing. And there's examples of that all over the place and from all manufacturers. I'm not singling anybody out. And there's also, to play devil's advocate, there's also the dealer who has nothing but problems, and it's because he can't install a network or terminate CAT, right? Like there's absolutely both sides of the street, but
of course,
you're very much like you're doing battle, you're trying to survive, right? And hey, I mean, it'd be great if something, if there were maybe more independent outlets that weren't just chasing ad dollars, which is perfectly acceptable, but it's a shame that there isn't, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's funny, I was thinking about journalistic, examples of journalistic integrity or people where they are critical. And, there are the odd ones, right? Like Caleb Dennison, although paid, he Digital Trends is certainly sponsored by different things, and he's got, ad dollars in different ways that he's making money. I've heard some pretty pointed critiques, Andrew Robinson, again, but these are those, it's like the one person that has to take the hit, right? Like it's that one guy. But like, what do you think about like, not just focus specifically on CI per se, but like when you look at an example like CNET and you listen to a guy like David Katzmeyer, I mean, I know from working with that guy personally, he's a pretty tough dude to please, right? Like his value proposition or like his quotient for like what's good, what's bad is on a different scale than where you and I would normally grade things for our industry. How do you position outlets like that with kicking the turds over or looking in the dark cracks? Like where do you position those guys?
I think there's
same place or
no. I think there's very much like you could add a couple other people to that list. Like Kara Swisher is a big one. Wall Street Journal and that kind of thing. And they have gotten the reputation over years and years of years where their word means something because they didn't just toe a line. Right. So, and again, I don't mean to single anybody out. I'm just using this for an example. But if you have a writer or an editor at, let's just say CE Pro, right? Like that's getting a positive article from somebody from CE Pro. Yeah. That's the default, right? Like, and
because it's bought and paid for.
Because it's bought and paid for. I don't think there's any real independent people in this. In this subset of consumer electronics, that's custom integrators where, hey, yeah, I heard what that guy had to say, and it's got some weight because he's pretty fair. He was critical of, he was critical of the new Samsung TV, or he was critical of how these speakers sounded, or something like that. We kind of don't have that,
No. Yeah, there isn't the Don Cherry, to draw a hockey analogy.
Canada, drink.
Of the custom install world from a personality or like a being critical standpoint, where I can't think of one anyway. Maybe they do exist, and they're like, "What about me?" If they're listening to this podcast right now,
Reach out. We'd love to have you on and talk to you.
I'd love to hear. Yeah, let's. I mean, you want to talk cash shit? Let's go to the ATM, right? Like, let's draw some money.
A big part of, and we're not going to spend this podcast just trashing anybody or anything else, but a big part of why I'm excited for like this new chapter in this whole, pirate ship, and we're kind of off on our own, is because when we were doing this under the banner of a manufacturer's rep firm, we don't want to piss off the people that we literally work for during the day, right? By cleaving this off entirely, there's a little bit more independence there, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to toe the company line or plug these things, but I would say, the absence of singular figures who have a reputation for being independent, being honest, kind of, laying it all bare, obviously, without being an asshole about it, right? Being constructive and that kind of thing. I think that doesn't really exist, but in its place are things like subreddits, right? Like, you've got Reddit groups, you've got, and forgive this analogy, but the old gray lady of AV, which is the AVS forums, right? So, and
I'm sure they appreciate that that metaphoric.
The old gray lady is the New York Times, right? So here's the forum of record for our, and that's high praise. I swear to God, like, that's not me dumping on them or anything. That is like, AVS forum's been around since like 1999. Like, I remember that from my very first day. And I went, I don't check them out that often, but I went on there just, and kind of preparing for this show. And like, there's posts from 5 minutes ago. So it's active, it's churning. There's all, like, every aspect. And I swear I didn't mean for this to become a plug for the AVS forum, but for real, like, every aspect of this industry that you want to discuss, control systems, shade systems, lighting systems, whatever, the new Vantage lighting version that came out, like, somebody has posted about that and where things are messed up and whatever. Man. Like, this is a truly independent resource because it comes from everybody, right? Like, there's something to be said for that.
There definitely is. And here's where I come in with a hot take. I mean, anybody that can fog a mirror can contribute to the ABS forum. And
right. Well, maybe that's
part of the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of it. It's open to anybody.
But the downside is that it's open to anybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, I say that as a joke, okay? But the reality is some of the contributions there maybe less than useful, right? There are cultural barriers, language barriers, people using translators, there's bots. It's the Wild West. It's the it's
and even
the
from the CI side
of
right.
of AV.
I don't know if I'd call it the 4chan of, but okay.
Well, I said it. Fine, whatever.
Okay.
It's a weird, wild, wacky place. Let's just put it that way. That's how I'll position it.
It definitely does bring in, the fact that it is just everybody mixed together, right? It's hard to get you're going to have end users on there who their problems are different than what a custom integrator might do. And for what it's worth, like, your enthusiasts, your people, your plain old folks in the real world who go on the AVS forum and are into this shit, they are most of the time pretty dead set against the whole custom integration thing, right? Like, they're do-it-yourselfers,
right? Because they're doing it themselves, of course,
and that's fair. But right, when you mix those together, you've got somebody who might post about, my AV guy said this and it's a total scam, even though it's not a scam, and
it's not a scam.
That's sort of, that muddies the water maybe a little bit. But it's still a great place to figure out what's going on, what other people are experiencing. It's nice.
Yeah, again, I'm not here to character assassinate, and again, making jokes. It's fun though, to just imagine a mire of just weird, just a bunch of people yelling about TVs and stereos because they can't read the instructions, or it says press any button. I don't see a button that says any on
Where's
it
the any key?
anywhere, right?
Right.
Exactly. It's just like, stuff like that. But I mean, having been victimized personally by the AVS forums about, what about this one article that talks about this one thing, and isn't this a widespread situation, and don't we need to say something about it, and you should make a press release about it, and oh my God, like
Yeah.
the unregulated nature of that website or of that forum is, I think, just a microcosm of a larger issue that humanity has. We don't care about good news. Where's the bad news coming from? Where's the bears coming out of the woods and that kind of thing.
That's
So
the engagement. I mean, unfortunately, that's the world that we live in today. Is that engagement counts for more than anything else, and engagement good or engagement bad, it's all still just engagement.
engagement bad. Smash, Hulk smash,
But
engagement.
there is, so for what it's worth, like that's an opportunity, and maybe this is just the perpetual optimist in me, as you've all come to know and love. That's me, always
Who's that
optimist,
guy?
right?
Whoa! Oh, it's that big. I thought the O was for something else. I didn't know it was for optimist.
He's been hiding at the bottom of this whiskey.
Oh, okay.
But it's an opportunity for manufacturers, right? Like,
Sure.
something going around on the forums and whatever, and yeah, legitimately it slips under the radar, or if it's just a post in a, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the larger thing of it. But like, that's an opportunity. If you have somebody on your team and you're a manufacturer, and somebody can wade in there and say, hey, it's, listen, this is Jayson from Sony. Here's how I understand this.
Even I could never say that. That would be you're fired.
I understand.
They'll give you a box with your shit in it that they sent you because they cleared it out. It's going to be not allowed back in the office.
An old PS5 box with all your things inside.
No, it's not even that. It's like a wet cardboard box that they found in an extra room that they used to keep paper in. No lid. They just taped it shut. It's like a triangle when it shows up.
But that's a little bit unfortunate, right? Like there is an opportunity there to connect to your users and your dealers, frankly, at that level. And even if it's just to say something like, hey, we're aware of this and we're working through it. Or, hey, thanks for letting us know. I've passed this on to the right people. Like that goes so far. Like that is even just, and those are both decidedly non-answers, right? Like
right.
This is all pretty middle of the road stuff. But if you tell somebody that you are, that A, we weren't aware of this before. Thank you for letting us know. I'm going to put this in the right hands, and we're going to look at a resolution or whatever. That's massive. I mean, the amount of goodwill that brings a manufacturer is enormous. It really is.
Yeah, I think it's the main thing that that makes this all work, right? Like it's just I lost my train of thought here in the middle of
it's
of
empathy.
this conversation. It
empathy.
is.
I mean, you're having a Pornhub tab open while you're
No,
doing this
I did
call.
not do that. I was not doing that. Actually, what I was visualizing in my head was you and I becoming the two new pundits of critical comments for the CI industry, and the way to visualize the bumper or the banner for this podcast is you and I as those two old Muppets up in the booth of the Muppet Theater.
Stadler and Waldorf.
Yeah, making smart ass comments and laughing about it the whole time.
What do you think of that new TV? I think it's pretty good. Oh, I think it sucks, and this sucks. And
Whoa!
Oh!
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's going to go. We'll have to figure out some new ways to creatively visualize
two things.
Our two new vocal mouthpieces on critics of the CI industry.
Episode thumbnail made, and gonna get sued by Jim Henson. That's what's on my list now for the next week. So there you go.
Well, see, I'm helping with the creative process here. I'm like, we talk to each other all the time, but it's rare that we actually openly collaborate, and we do it while we're recording. So it's a weird dynamic that we have here, but we create and we discuss and we make it all happen within a narrow window of time.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
and again, I'm not personally looking to become, the asshole in this industry who is that guy. But yeah, like let's be real. We can be a little bit more real about this stuff. I think we all can. Manufacturers, everybody.
Well, this is our theater, right? So it's just like what's their names again? Something
Stadler and Waldorf.
Statler and Waldorf. So this is, I think they own the theater so that they can talk all the shit they want while they're watching the show. So, maybe we make that a more permanent
There you go.
metaphor and visualization.
Just come up with like gripe in a week, and would just single out some, maybe we'll go completely the other way with it, right? We'll find every week we'll come up with something that is just intrinsically good and beyond reproach, and we'll just shit on it for like 10 seconds.
Let's do it. I'm here for it. Oh man, here we go. The next new format.
What do you think about charities? Like,
oh my god.
Hey. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that kind of struck me, just because we were at Lightapalooza pretty recently, and like you go to these booths and it's all glad handing and everybody's, being cordial and everything else. But like, you kind of get that sometimes there's like a little subtle undertone, like, while you're shaking somebody's hand, like, fuck this guy. And you're just smiling the whole time. Like, there's a lot of that. And, we need to get a little bit more real about this stuff.
A little bit more honesty, a little bit more reality. Yeah, I think that's fair. It doesn't have to be adversarial. You don't have to draw a line in the sand.
Definitely not.
Talking plainly and openly about where things are at and what's going on is, I think, a refreshing approach for 2025 into the future.
And
so we may see a Yeti appearance. There's my front door opening. So live podcasting. Here we go.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. I'm not just saying that because your wife came home, but I think
she does not want to be on the podcast. I know that.
No, mine would not either at all. But yeah. So let us know what you think. Hit us up. Oh, I did want to throw in. Another plug. I'm standing up a new YouTube channel for our current company. Progressive CI is the YouTube channel. I only say that because there's a couple of funny things on there that we did at Lightapalooza in an official capacity. Again, Progressive does not condone or reflect upon
or contribute.
Not in there whatsoever. I'm just plugging it because there's some funny videos that we just put up there from Lightapalooza. And if you missed it, good way to see what we were talking about. Really that plug, and keep listening. Leave us comments. Tell us how to get better. Tell us what you hate about us. If you're a manufacturer, please tell us absolutely what you hate about us.
And if you'd like to corrupt this pirate ship with a bunch of ad dollars, we'll be more than happy to never mention your name in any negative light ever. We'll post your logos all over our website and banners, and we will make sure that we are the best ad partner that you've ever had.
Yes.
But the likelihood of that being what it is,
less than zero,
we'd like to direct you to our Instagram page at inside_integration on the gram, and of course our YouTube channel and all of our socials. Thank you guys for listening. As always, if you stuck around here to the end, we love you. Take care. Bye bye.
See ya.